So it's like, I look back at that with our life about to change in such a major way, it allowed us to have a togetherness and to really be a part of the biggest things that could happen to us. Me becoming pregnant, him having a major organ transplant, life-saving organ transplant.
Right.
We got to really hold each other's hands through it. And I'm really, really grateful for it. And I think that's why he was like, this is the timing. He wanted it to all converge at the same time.
I don't got it all planned out, but you know, I just watch it all pan out, 'cause I know that you know, covered in this life until forever.
What? Okay, I had to give that. This is the first time I've ever given that because I'm
obsessed.
I'm excited to have you here.
I know, we were saying we want to be closer.
I know, I feel so far away from you today. This just inspires me to get a couch. Just so I can like be close to you.
Totally.
And like, you know, sometimes I like, get so into it, I want to like squeeze your leg or something or like hold a hand.
Love a couch, but I'll come back and we'll be on the couch.
Come back and we'll be on the couch.
Sweats on the couch.
Welcome Ashley, Blaine, Featherson-Jenkins to the Cool Mom Code podcast. You are the first one that I've ever introduced, I think, with 4 names.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I always say I
that.
have like the longest name in Hollywood now. It's fine.
That's crazy that that's your Hollywood name, because I will tell you that I have 4 names. I have a very long name. I won't give you the whole name because it's my government name and I keep it to myself just for privacy purposes.
But like on your like license?
On my driver's license, I have 4 names. I have my first name, I have a middle, I have my mom's maiden, I have my I have 4 names. And that's not even including my married name.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I have a really whenever I see your name, I get kind of like nostalgic. I'm like, oh my God, she's just like me.
I know. Yeah, I'm a proud hyphenated woman, you know. Because everyone was like, when I got married, they were like, are you gonna add it on? And I was like, yeah. I think I went back and forth. At first I was like, I don't know, I might just keep it, because I was always Ashley Blaine Featherson.
Yeah.
So
and why the full Ashley Blaine Featherson? Was there already an Ashley Featherson?
No.
Because you know with SAG, a lot of times when you become like guild, if someone has your exact name, you have to put an initial.
Nobody had my name. Okay. I think for me, I've always liked my full name. And I went back and forth. Like I've been Ashley Blaine Featherson since I was a teenager, like 14. I've been acting professionally since I was 14. So it had kind of been ingrained. I also liked like having my family name. Yeah. Ashley Blaine felt like it's my Instagram name, but it felt almost too casual.
Ashley Blaine.
Yeah, I liked it, but it just felt
to that though.
Which is why I'm like, I kind of have that too. It's my Instagram name, but like professionally, I really wanted like my family name. Yeah. And then also I'm the last one. Like I'm a girl, you know, my dad doesn't have any more children. So like the name doesn't really go on after me. And then I wanted to take my husband's name on and I was like, they just gonna have to deal with it.
All of them.
Make space on my title card. Y'all can do it.
You know, make it a smaller font.
If it's got to be a smaller font, that's fine. But y'all gonna put all the names on there. And so I like that. Like I get to carry all of my names with me, and it has been an issue. Yeah,
there's something proud about that, though.
Yeah,
you know, I think about that same thing with my names. It's just. Everyone always says, why don't you drop your mother's maiden name? And I'm like, well, because I wasn't close to my father. So by nature, I have his name. And I'm like, why wouldn't I keep the woman who raised me, her name? Like, that's just automatic. But for me, I didn't take on my husband's last name legally because there was something around, like, I just felt like there was a lot of paperwork. When I was getting married and like doing all this stuff or whatever, I felt like there was so much paperwork. And because I had so many names already, I was like, oh, I'll just get to that once we have kids.
Yeah.
You just went right in.
Oh, I went, oh yeah.
Are you traditional in that sense?
I am.
Yeah.
I am. And I also really wanted to have the same last name as our children.
Yes.
So they will just be Jenkins. I'm hyphenated, but at least we all share it.
Yeah.
But how long have you been married?
15 years.
Okay, so things have changed, Lizzie. So when I got married almost 3 years ago, there's like services that do it all for you.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Literally, I can't think of the name of it right now, but there's a name of a service that I used where Hitch Switch, that's what it's called.
Hitch Switch.
Hitch Switch.
They need to sponsor this episode.
Yeah, they need to sponsor this. It's called Hitch Switch.
Okay.
And basically, like, they do all they send you all the forms with like literally like with the stamp, all of that. You just have to sign it. and send it all in.
Shut up.
So it was super easy. Like I didn't really have an excuse as to like why I didn't want to do it.
Okay, yeah. You have zero excuse then.
Yeah, it's super easy.
But you're more of a traditional woman. Do you feel like in the sense of like, you know, taking on names, taking on last names, that kind of thing? Do you feel like that's how you were raised?
Yeah. So like my mom was married. My father is my mother's second husband.
My father. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And so my mom was intentional about keeping my sister's last name, which was her first husband's last name. So she made that her middle.
Okay.
And she always told us that she did that because she always wanted to make sure she had the last names of both of her children. Because my sister and I have different last names.
Right.
Which I thought was like smart. You know, she never had any issues at the school. You know, everybody knew, you know.
Yep.
But I don't know. It's such a good question. Like, am I more traditional? I think I would lean yes. I think I'm a traditional modern woman. That's what I
love it.
That's
Look
what I am.
Quote right there.
Yeah, because there are a lot of like traditional things that I feel like I lean into, but there's also a lot of modern ways that I feel like I lean into. Like I need a bit of a balance, which makes sense. Like I was born in the late 80s. Like I feel like that's kind of like, that's the vibe for our generation. You know?
I agree. I mean, there's so many things that you do though. Actress, podcast host, you produce and write too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you do the whole gamut. You are a creative person. Have you always been this creative?
Oh yeah. My whole life. Like I've always wanted to do so many different things. And not because I was like craving being super busy, but just because I really felt like who I am has always lent itself to a lot of different talents and career opportunities and you know, just so many different, my world has always felt very expansive.
Okay, wait a minute. Hold up. My world has always felt very expansive. What does that mean? You've never felt limited in your world? Is that what you mean?
I've definitely felt limited, but not because of me. You know what I mean? Because of, you know, like for instance, I think when I first moved out to LA, I was very confused at like the idea that it felt like you kind of had to choose.
Choose what?
Choose a primary career. You know, I went to Howard University and I got a degree in musical theater. Someone only gets a degree in musical theater if they are multi-talented, if they are a multi-hyphenate. You know what I mean? If there's someone who knows that I can do a lot of different things and I want to do a lot of different things. But I felt like when I moved to LA, it was like, yeah, but what do you do? And I was like, I don't get it. What do you mean? I act, I sing, I dance, I have ideas, I want to create. People are like, yeah, but you kind of got to pick one. Like I need to kind of know like, how do we like mainly market you?
Right.
And it just never sat right with me. I never really understood it. I think a lot has changed now.
I was just gonna say,
like,
do you think that's still the case?
Not so much. I feel like multi-hyphenates are more embraced. I have the belief that everyone's a multi-hyphenate. You just have to figure out what your hyphens are. That's my own personal belief. Nobody is just one thing.
And what you're also willing to show as your multi-hyphenate.
1000%.
Yeah.
But yeah, now it's like, you know, now I feel like, let's say someone were to move to LA, they're like, so what are all the things that you do?
But how did you, let's take it back though, because how did you combat that? With someone's ideal or with like the industry's ideal that you have to choose one thing. You come in from a musical theater background at HU, you know what I'm saying? Howard University, which is known for the people of arts, you know what I mean? And how successful they have really creative, really successful people out of those programs. How do you choose just one now?
I didn't. I just was like, I don't know how to do that. And it wasn't easy. I mean, I will say I didn't, but I did. And what I mean by that is that like, in retrospect, I do think that I placed most of my focus on acting. I feel like I had to. But kind of like on the side, I was still trying to create content and, you know, just coming up with a whole bunch of ideas and wanting to collaborate with people. And then obviously down the line, now I have a podcast and all. So a lot of different things have happened now. But when I first got here, it did feel like, okay, I have to put a lot of my focus into being an actress on film and television.
Right. Because that is what's going to get me to the next level.
Exactly.
You know, I think what's interesting about it is a lot of people have to focus on one to open doors for the next. Even if you are a multi-hyphenate in the beginning, you have to focus on one to open the doors for what's to follow. And what's to follow, right? Producer, writer, podcast host. You know what I mean? Like it's interesting how that unfolds that way.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, you have to have a platform.
Right.
I think kind of what the industry was saying is that you have to have a platform, and the platform has to be somewhat stable.
Yeah.
If the platform is still coming together with a whole bunch of puzzle pieces, then maybe, you know, you're like not exactly on sturdy ground. But so in that regard, I get it. But I never wanted to feel limited or boxed in. And I think that as an artist, you kind of have to create that safety for yourself. You can't expect the industry to do that for you.
Right. Of course. That's hard though.
Yeah.
That's hard though.
Yeah.
Back to expansive. I just love that you use the word expansive. I think that's such an interesting word to use. But like for you, you just thought your world was expansive. And I love that. Yeah. You definitely, and I know Ashley, everybody. So this is not the first time that me and Ashley have met. And every time I talk to you from the first time, you have always come across to me as so confident, so grounded, and really someone who like truly like, and I feel like because I aspire and I feel like this is how I am. I love the skin I'm in. I do. Like I feel very good about the skin I'm in. I love the path that I get to walk because there's no one else walking this path. And you feel very similar to that. Did that come from upbringing? Or where did you find that? Like, where does that come from for you?
Well, first of all, thank you for like, I've always felt like you just see me.
I do.
And vice versa. Like going back to like me saying I felt like my world was expansive. I felt like that because my parents created a world that was that. I don't remember anything that I wanted to do, them saying no. Yeah. Or I don't think so. Or maybe you should try this. Like they always provided me with space to try and to become. You know, I think that I have had, and then honestly, it was my parents, but then it was going to a school like Howard. Like Howard, I felt like I could be anybody that I wanted to be. And not only that, I had examples every day in front of me of like aspirational figures and people that were my age or older or alum, whatever it is, there were always pillars of excellence surrounding me in my entire life.
Let's talk about that for a second. Because did you go to a predominantly Black high school as well?
I never went to a predominantly Black school until Howard.
Okay, so let's get into it. Because this is where I didn't go to a HBCU, but my brothers went to HBCUs. My husband went to HBCU. And by HBCU, just for everyone who's listening, it is, those are historically Black universities, right? And so I always looking back on it, I'm like, what would I have become if I had gone to an HBCU?
But you're from Detroit.
I am from Detroit. So I grew up with it. I grew up around, I always was in very, very extremely diverse schools. That wasn't anything I ever searched for. Like in my upbringing, my mom was like, we were just in Detroit. So everyone, you can imagine what that is. We were what we were, right?
Yes.
So for me, I went to a predominantly white university. And that was interesting for me, right? Like there was like, obviously, but to flip it around, right? Now I am raising girls who, and a boy. So I have 3. I don't forget about him. He's just the third. So for me, he's not like a fully developed human yet. He's still like a little baby person. So, okay. So anyway, I am raising children, boys as well as girls as well as boy. But I'm raising kids now, and they go to predominantly white schools. And one of the things that my husband and I always talk about is we have to encourage to go to an HBCU just to get that experience. So tell me, why was that experience so phenomenal for you? Because when you talk about it, with a lot of pride and a lot of like love. And that's how my husband talks about it too. And so why was that so integral for you?
I actually just got chills. It's so, you know, I feel like for Black folks, our history is everything. And, you know, Howard University, for example, was founded in 1867. you know, to just even think about that. Like, this was a place that was created for Black folks to get a higher education in 1867.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the people that were attending Howard University at that time were the direct descendants of slaves. Direct. Their parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, great-grandparents, like that's a fact.
Yeah.
And so to walk on the same grounds, to study in the same halls, to you know, to have a library that's named after Frederick Douglass, you know, all of these things, as a modern woman means a lot.
Right.
And it leaves an indelible mark on your heart. But even taking it a step further, there's something about being surround people that are excellent, but look like you.
Yeah.
Every day. It's impossible for that to not permeate your spirit, for that to not make you better, for that to not make you feel seen in a way that you hadn't been seen before. And for me, I'm really big on empowerment, and it empowered me. It empowered me to not only be great, but to be a proud, excellent, intelligent Black woman and be unapologetic about it.
Now, coming from a predominantly white high school, was Howard a shock for you?
No.
In any way, shape, or form?
So that's the thing. My parents did it, you know, I was in Jack and Jill, you know, I was around, I obviously was surrounded by Black folks all the time, and had a lot of Black experiences. And I went to diverse schools, but definitely were predominantly white.
Right.
You know, like I was the first I went to a high school called Quince Orchard, but I was the first Black woman to win like the pageant at our school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not, there were Black people that had been going there since the beginning, but I was the first one to ever win the pageant, for example. But yeah, Howard literally, like, I was gonna say it changed my DNA, but it didn't. It like ignited my DNA.
Yeah.
It like it was the ultimate experience of Blackness and excellence.
And you
I
felt
got
like
to
it was
experience
just
it for 4 years.
surrounded by it, because everyone was going through something similar
You're
at the same
engulfed
time.
in it.
Yeah.
But in the best way. Like
Yeah.
I truly, and also it's the years that you go. You know, I went from 17 to 21. Those are such important years of your life.
You're right.
Like those are the years that like sear your brain with like all of the things that you're going to take for the rest of your life.
Yeah, well, you're forming who you are. You're forming your identity. You're forming your self-worth. You're forming your opinions of yourself as a woman and as a leader, as all these things. This is where you are culminating who you, like you say, will be in the next 30, 40, 50, 60 years.
Yep.
I think what I think is truly special, as I hear people, you know, always tell me their stories from it, is that not only are you walking on the same grounds, there's a certain like, and I can understand that that's such a great like way of putting it, like igniting that passion or igniting that, you know, love for yourself and for your people. But there's something about being surrounded by it, living with it, and also now knowing the truth about your history. Because I do think wherever you come from, I'm from Detroit, so we learned a lot about Motown and the people who came out of Detroit, and it was such like a historical city, you know, just to kind of grow up in. But just in totality of just us as a people, our culture is so lost in many respects. And when I see other cultures and other people, I'm like, wow, like I wish we could hold those traditions. I wish we as a people could do like, you know, those certain things. You see even, which is big out here, right? Bar mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs. And my daughter's at this stage now where she's going to all the bar mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs.
I did too.
You did?
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
So I've never been to one. And so my daughter came home the other day and she was like, Mom, it was just, you know, she was telling me about the ceremony and like all the things and like how, you know, the young man or woman or boy or girl has to get up and recite all of like, you know, like all the things that they learn and they work on. And then the parents give speeches. And I looked over to my husband and I'm like, man, like I just wish we had something like that was traditional within ourselves. I looked at him and I said, I'm gonna have to throw her a Sweet 16 and give speeches. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. Just because it makes, it also, I feel like what that does for the child can be enormous. Like that sort of like confidence that you're giving them of how proud you are. You know, this is, you know, we believe in you and look what you've accomplished and all this stuff that you're giving that child. Like, that's what I want. I want that for our people. And I just wish, so my point is going to an HBCU where you feel that on a daily must be a totally different feeling.
And just like to your point, I feel like an example of that for me and my family was graduating from Howard. That's what that did for my family. That's what that did for me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like to add my name to the long list of amazing, beautiful, powerful, intelligent Black folks that also graduated from this institution was big.
Yeah,
it was really, really big.
Was it? Do you have any family that's alumni?
My mom.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so that's even more special.
And then now my little brother, my husband's brother, he goes there. He's a junior there. So like, yeah, we're creating
your
legacy.
That's right. We know where you're pushing this little baby girl. Okay, so let's jump to this. Okay, so Ashley is an actress. You are a very successful actress.
Thank you.
You have been, you know, listen, people love your work. You are very talented. You are in the height of your career. You are doing things. And now you're pregnant.
Yeah.
You know where it is.
Yeah. That you said it. I mean, the dramatics around it was perfect. Like, yeah.
I say this to all to say because I remember being in the midst of an acting and modeling career, traveling 3-4 times a week. And I remember my husband and I looking at each other, and we made a pact very early on that we wouldn't allow career to stop us from starting our family because we had seen so many times before with my mentors and with other people, they would get on a run and it was career, and they would pause on family. No, not yet, not ready, not yet, not ready.
Yeah.
My husband had to talk me into all 3 pregnancies, by the way. I was not ready for any of them. And I still look at him some days and be like, this is you. This is you. I wasn't ready for this.
Yeah.
What was it that you felt like now's the time? Because this wasn't just like, oh, I'm with my husband, we're married, we're pregnant. You worked at this. And so what was it? First, tell me about, before we get into your journey with it, tell me about the decision that you both made. Now's the time.
Daryl and I we had both decided that after we got married, we would be open to getting pregnant whenever it happened.
Okay.
You know, like after we got engaged, I got a birth control. Like I started like really being, you know, making sure my prenatals were good. Like I started like priming myself, I guess. Yeah, being intentional. But yeah, we were always just like, after we get married, we're just open to it happening whenever.
Okay.
And it just didn't happen for a long time. And we were fine with that too, by the way. Like we weren't like freaking out or anything. And then I went to my OBGYN and was like, hey, you know, we've been trying for, I think at that point it had been over a year, like maybe 14 months. And she was like, okay. She was like, I think you guys should pivot. And I was like, okay. And she suggested that at that time we pivot to seeing reproductive endocrinologist or like a fertility specialist.
Okay. When you heard that though, did you get worried? In that moment when someone says, I think you should pivot, were you like, what was that?
You know what, Lizzie, if I'm completely honest, I've had so many reproductive hurdles. So I've had fibroid. I've already had, by the time she's telling me to pivot, I had already had 2 fibroid removals. Right. Or I had been dealing with a hyperprolactinoma, which is like a benign brain tumor that is hitting on your pituitary gland that kind of tricks your body into lactating. So I had been dealing with high prolactin levels. And so I had already kind of had some things that I felt like might have been working against me anyway.
Okay.
So it wasn't a huge, I'll be honest, for me, it wasn't a huge shock. If anything, I was like, great. Like maybe somebody else can like give us some answers. Because at that time, you know, my OBGYN was like, you're doing all the things I'm telling you. And I don't really know how else I can help you. I think it's time to go to somebody else.
Okay. So you guys go to somebody else at this point. Yeah. You're like, okay, great. Let's go to somebody else. And what do they say? What is your process
So we go to the reproductive endocrinologist, who is amazing. And, you know, I kind of tell him our story. And at that time too, just God is so good. But we knew that Daryl was going to need a kidney transplant. So that's a whole nother wrench. And that's a whole nother part of our journey. So we had found out like a year and a half or 2 years prior that Daryl had kidney disease.
Wow.
And he was heading into end-stage renal failure, basically, but had no symptoms. He was completely asymptomatic. We found this out in a fluke. Like, he was completely fine. But we knew, so we went to go see the reproductive endocrinologist in November of 2022. Mm-hmm. We knew that if Daryl didn't get a kidney by January of 2024, then he would have to do dialysis like 4 to 5 times a week.
Wow.
So we were already,
dialysis is no joke.
Yeah. Okay. And at this time, at this point, he had avoided everything. He was fine. He took like 1 blood pressure medication and was living his best life.
Right.
But, you know, kidney failure is just one of those things that like, the only way for it to get better is dialysis or a transplant.
So he's on a list. At this point, he's on a list.
He's not even on the list yet.
Wow.
We're like gearing ourselves up. Like 2023 is the year of like, let's try to figure all this out, make sure he's on the list, see what's going on. Like so we're like a month and a half out from that.
Okay.
So we go to see the reproductive endocrinologist and I'm telling him about all this, about what's going on with me. And then I'm like, I say as like a by the way, my husband's also going to need a kidney transplant. And he's like, oh, well, then you definitely should go this route because with being a transplant patient and like all the medication and everything, it's not recommended
to have children.
And I don't know if it's forever. I think it's just in the interim phase, of course, maybe, but it wasn't.
Because your body is getting pumped with so many other things.
Yep. Yeah. And so he was like, actually, you guys definitely should do this now. Like now is actually the time to do it.
And by do this, you mean?
Retrieve and freeze eggs and create embryos.
Okay.
And so
now your IVF journey begins.
Now it begins. So now we're like, okay, we're locked into this. And he also... it was at that time that I was diagnosed with unexplained infertility, which is like the most frustrating thing for anybody because it is exactly what it sounds like.
They can't pinpoint it.
We don't know what to tell you. We don't know why it's not happening.
Wow.
So we wish you the best. Like it's very frustrating. Like, you know, I'm not saying it's any better if like, you know, you got endometriosis or you know it's PCOS. Mm-hmm. Or you know, there's so many other things. I'm not saying it makes it better.
Okay, so this is my question for you in mindset, right? Because I think there's so many women who are going through this now or who are trying to start their families and listening to this and they're like, okay, mindset around this for me, putting myself in your position in this moment, right? Do you have any friends at this point who have gone through this or do you know of anybody who has walked this path or are you feeling like a lone duck right now?
I had one of my closest friends at the time had already done some egg retrievals.
Okay.
But nobody close to me or really in reach had done what I was about to do, which was create embryos and do an embryo transplant, all of that. I didn't have any. So TikTok helped me.
It
was TikTok.
Wow.
I found community on TikTok.
Wow. I did not see that one coming.
TikTok taught me everything. And I wasn't even on TikTok prior to this. IVF led me to TikTok.
What?
Yeah.
What? I did not see that one coming.
I didn't either.
I'm shocked. Wow. Okay. I haven't heard that. I've never heard that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Not a recipe. We're
no,
talking.
It was
TikTok helped me through my IVF journey.
TikTok taught me how to do everything. It gave me anything that I was having that was coming up on my agenda, like how to do mix the medications, how to do the shots, what an appointment might look like, what an ultrasound at a certain point would look like, what the doctor might say. Anything I needed, I could literally type it in TikTok and there would be someone that would pop up that would be talking directly to camera and sharing their experience with me. And I cannot tell you how much it did for me.
Was that why you have been and were so open about your IVF journey?
1000%. Because although it was I'm so grateful for it, I longed to see someone that looked like me. It was the most frustrating and confusing thing because I was like, I know that we're doing this. Mm-hmm. I know we are.
Yeah, very much so.
Where are we? Mm-hmm. Where are we?
But do you think we're also taught to be more private about things?
1000%.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And I that's the other thing, Lizzie. I knew when God had us like embark on this different journey and take this big pivot. Yeah. I literally was like, Oh, because you want me to share this. Got it. I was like, yeah, it couldn't have been super easy and linear because I knew that he wanted me to use my testimony in order to bring visibility to the space for women of color, specifically Black women, and so that women felt less alone.
Right.
Because although there were a ton of resources, there was still something, I still kind of felt alone in it. I wanted to see a familiar face, a face that looked like mine, and I just didn't. So it's been so wonderful to get all the messages I get where women are saying to me exactly what I wanted. They're saying, thank you. I just wanted to see someone that looked like me.
Just also a really quick note. If you're loving this content, our podcast with all of our amazing guests, we love sharing their stories. It really is such a joy for us. Then you're going to love thecoolmom.co. Make sure to head over there. It is everything that you can think of lifestyle. So we have fashion, food, we have amazing interviews with a lot of other cool moms as well. So check out all of our Cool Mom Co features, shop our merch, do all the things. Check out thecoolmom.co.
I mean, okay, so you go through this and so now you are on the IVF journey, and how long does it take to finally get pregnant? And do you get pregnant in time? Or sorry, how long does it take? You do the embryo. So that's what, like a 6-week, what kind of process?
No, oh my gosh, it's a whole thing. Okay, so first, what I want a lot of women to know is that if you're interested in freezing your eggs, that's actually the most, it's the least time consuming part of the process, to be completely honest.
Okay.
You could go in for a consultation at the top of the month and have your eggs frozen by the end of the month.
Okay.
You are on what they call stims, or stimulating medication, for anywhere from about 9 to 13 days.
Okay.
Then you go in and throughout that time, they're monitoring you and they're checking, your follicle size, which is like basically the eggs. And then they go in, they retrieve them. They freeze them and you're good to go. So it's not, I think a lot of women are like, I don't have the time. You totally have the time to freeze your eggs.
And then freezing your eggs, they last forever, from what I understand. There's no expiration date.
Yeah, there's no expiration. You got to keep paying to freeze them.
Yeah,
but
that's
pay
it.
The freezer fees.
Yes, that's it.
But yeah, I can't even tell you, even though I was married and like we had a plan of wanting to have kids and whatever, the type of exhale I exhaled after knowing that these eggs were just out of me.
Okay, wait a minute though, because you needed to do embryos though, so that's different.
Yes.
So did you do egg retrieval first?
Yeah. So you have to do. So that's the thing. So you have to do the egg. So you take the eggs out. They freeze them.
Okay.
They also are going to take sperm, wherever you get your sperm from, and after
stop it, wherever you get your sperm
some people
from,
might do a sperm bank, some people might have a partner. It's up to you, but you need, if you want to make the embryo, you need the sperm.
Okay, got it.
They're going to take the sperm and they're going to fertilize the eggs, and then over 5 to 7 days they're going to watch them. They want them to get to what they call blastocyst, which is like basically like a perfect fully formed embryo. And so that's the next step. So some people, what we did was we froze embryos.
Okay.
So you could freeze eggs or you can freeze embryos.
And you guys had to freeze embryos because you didn't want to, you had to do it then and there. Like you wanted to freeze embryos so you had a baby ready to go.
Exactly.
And not have to do sperm again.
Exactly.
Given everything.
But for example,
it
also was an easier choice for me to freeze embryos because I had already I had my chosen partner. I knew that this is who I want. If you don't know kind of though, if those are still variables that are lingering for you, then just freeze eggs.
Right.
And then you can, after the fact, create embryos. You don't have to do it all at the same time.
Got it.
That's why a lot of single women freeze eggs. You know?
Yeah.
So our process was we did the egg retrieval, we created embryos, froze embryos.
Okay.
It all went well. That was, thank God, my body responded really well to IVF.
Okay.
Which again, you don't know until you embark on the journey.
Right.
My body responded really well to it. Froze embryos. We then took a break. And we took a break because the doctor ended up finding another fibroid. This is after I've already had 2 fibroid removals, but he found another one that was like on the lining of my uterus that he kind of suspected was perhaps an issue in us getting pregnant. Like that could have been maybe a culprit. Not that I had a fibroid, but specifically where the fibroid was in my uterine lining.
Okay.
So the plan was, all right, we created embryos by February, we have embryos. Let's, kind of take a break. Let's schedule a fibroid removal for July.
Okay.
Now, just so you know what's going on at this time in our lives, we're trying to figure out how we gonna get Daryl a kidney. He's on a list. We're testing all sorts of family members. I actually was a match, but because I'm also trying to have a baby, they're like, you can't do both. So I'm like, ugh, okay. It's looking like his mom is going to be a good option, but she has a lot of different steps, like a lot of approval. Like they want her to lower this and increase that and do this. So she had a lot of like
to-dos.
A lot of to-dos, but that's all like, it's trending well.
Right.
And the strike. So now I'm like,
what?
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm sorry. What?
For real? Like,
wait a minute.
This is not what I signed up for.
And I heard very clearly from God that he wanted us to do this before the end of the year. But the year was crazy.
Now, why? Why do you think before the end of the year? Why? Why do you think that's specific?
Well, now because he like Daryl, for example, got his kidney so his mom ended up getting approved and he got a kidney trans. We did the embryo transfer in December, so I waited as long as I could because I was scared.
Yeah, of course.
I wasn't scared that it would work or that it would be. I was like, this doesn't make sense. The timing felt like the worst timing, but I heard very clearly before the end of the year, And so we were planning on actually doing it around September, October. It was December.
Wow.
I pushed it as long as, and Daryl the whole time was like, it's fine. But being in that strike, I was like, this feels irresponsible. Like, I don't know when I'll work again.
Right.
After already kind of having a stretch of like work being
on pause.
And like now the industry doesn't even exist currently.
Right.
It just felt like this can't be the time.
Scary.
But in retrospect, we were obedient and, the embryo transfer was successful in December. Daryl got his mother was his kidney donor in January. I was like 7 weeks pregnant maybe when he had his kidney transplant.
Wow.
And looking back, it's been a tough year in a lot of different ways with like the industry recalibrating itself and all sorts of different things. But, we got to be really present for one another. I didn't have to miss any of his appointments.
Right.
I got to hold his hand through the entire kidney transplant process. He hasn't had to miss any appointments with me. So it's like I look back at that with our life about to change in such a major way that we got to, there was something really, it allowed us to have a togetherness and to really be a part of the biggest things that could happen to us, me becoming pregnant, him having a major organ transplant, life-saving organ transplant.
Right.
We got to really hold each other's hands through it. And I'm really, really grateful for it. And I think that's why he was like, this is the timing. He wanted it to all converge at the same time.
Where do you find the belief, the strength, to listen to the voice, to listen to what you're hearing, to listen to God, the universe, whatever people call it.
Yeah.
But how do you find listening in that moment? Being obedient, like you say in your words, in that moment. How do you even find the strength to do that? Because that takes courage. That takes an immense amount of courage in that situation.
You know what's interesting, Lizzie? Prior to like this knowing that I had that we were supposed to do this before the end of the year, I had been struggling with like how I was hearing from God. Not even just how, if I was even at all, really. And I feel like it took me down a path of like, it took me down a path of being like, of remembering that I believe that spirit is in us. So it took me down a path of like trusting myself more. Like that voice I kept trying to ignore that I thought was me was really him. And when it comes up, when it arises in you in that way, and it's something that keeps coming up that you don't want to ignore, but that is like staying with you, that's the voice. And it's not going to lead you astray. And another like, I guess part of that too is like, I was like, what's the alternative? Like stuff was so tough last year between the strike, hoping my husband gets a kidney, surgeries, fibroid removals, hoping, scared to do embryo. I had to lay it all down. I was like, I obviously can't carry this all on my own.
Right.
What's the worst that can happen if I surrender and I trust this incessant voice that's inside of me? And I'm so happy I did. But I think sometimes it's less about courage and strength, and it's more about it's the last resort.
It's interesting. I listened to an interview that you had, and this was before you got pregnant, I believe, but you were talking about you coming to LA and how people thought you were just so brave. You were like, they were like, you're just so brave, just getting up and moving. And you said it was like, it confused you. You were like, I don't understand why people said it was brave. It just felt like it was what I was supposed to do. And I think in that moment, that's exactly what it is.
It's a great time, Lizzie. Yeah.
Like what you were supposed to do.
It felt right. And I felt led to do it. No, it was literally it was almost like everything in my body was pulling me toward this, no matter the circumstances surrounding it. All of the circumstances, if you read my year on paper, you would be like, nobody in their right mind would intentionally try to have a baby at this time. And I think part of the guilt was the feeling irresponsible because it was our choice. We're going to the doctor saying, hello, we would like to do it. I think it would feel different if it was like a spontaneous pregnancy or whatever. Then it would just be like, okay, like this is what is meant to be.
Right.
But I want to empower women and people that are going through IVF to know that although you might feel like your hands are in it more, it still is, there's still spontaneity in it.
Yeah.
There is still, it is still your timing. Although you feel like you're picking these dates and these appointments and whatever, it still is what's meant for you.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. There's so many journeys on your way into motherhood that are possibilities. What are your takeaways for someone right now who's listening to this and they're like, I'm trying to figure out what my next steps are? What are your tips or your giveaways for them?
Run, don't walk. Just really go and take all the fertility tests you can, to see what your levels are looking like and what your, get your eggs checked. Just do all those things. I think sometimes people are scared to do it because they don't want to know,
Be informed.
Be informed.
Because
it empowers you.
Right.
You can't do anything without the knowledge and the information. So if I would encourage you to find a really good doctor, have a really good OBGYN, have a really good, start doing some research on fertility clinics if that is something that you end up pivoting to. And also I was also really intentional, not knowing the route that we would go on just getting my body right. I was on my own, really being very active and doing my walks and making sure I was taking my vitamins and drinking my water. And just, I knew that if I wanted to create a child, I wanted the child to be created in the best environment possible. But I took the initiative to do that. So I would really encourage, if you know this is what you want, start treating your body as such, as the vessel that will that will be the home for this child, because it's really, really important.
No, that's a great tip. That's a really good tip, because you don't think about it. Sometimes we always are, a lot of people are reactionary instead of what is it called? Not reactionary. What's the pre?
They're
what's it called?
Reactive. We want people to be more proactive. Yeah.
Between two podcast hosts here, we gonna get it. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah, no, that's a good tip, though,
I was proactive.
Proactive instead of reactive.
And so I think also that's a huge part of why I've had such a great pregnancy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was going to be my next thing to jump into. I'm like, through all this, right? Through kidney failure and surgeries with your husband and successfully finding one, which is that's
his mom.
It's a blessing in itself. My
yeah.
gosh. And everything's doing well with that?
They're great. They've never been better.
Okay, great. Through that and IVF for you and fibroids and surgeries and all these things.
Yeah.
Let me tell y'all something, okay? I have seen Ashley probably, good, like 6 times throughout this pregnancy.
Actually, I've seen you a lot.
I've seen you a lot.
At each stage.
And each time I see her, she's like glowing and she's like fresh and she's like excited and energetic. And I mean, you look like honestly, I can't even tell, first of all, that you are pregnant. Maybe it's maybe you know how to dress yourself clearly.
Honestly, I'm at the point now where I'm like, okay, I need to buy new clothes because I'm like, I can't. It's just stressful.
But more so than that, you're feeling amazing.
Oh my God,
you're feeling great.
Yeah.
I mean, you're having the type of pregnancy every woman just dreams of.
Yes.
So I love this for you. I love this stage for you, you know? Yeah. Now you know you're having a baby girl.
Yes.
Wait a minute. You've said that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's the other cool thing about IVF. You can like pick if you want to. We chose.
I was really hoping I did not just say
it's totally
something.
fine. Yeah, we're having a girl.
Having a girl.
Yeah.
What are the things that you look forward to, I guess, the most in motherhood?
Oh my gosh. I am so excited to like meet my new favorite person.
Ooh, I
think that's super cool. Like, I haven't met her yet. I feel like we're like obviously together every day and like that's my homegirl. But it's so cool to know that I will birth my favorite person.
Yes.
Like that's really cool.
It's very cool.
So I'm excited about that. I cannot wait to see what she looks like.
Yes.
I cannot. It's going to be, I just feel like I'm going to be like, this is what you look like this whole time. Yes. Like, so I'm very excited to like see her face.
Yes.
And I'm really excited to like grow up together, you know? And I think a lot of times people say that when people have children very young, but I think it applies to any age that you have a child.
Yeah.
You're both growing. You're always growing throughout life. And so I'm excited for her to add greatly to my growth experience in life and for me to add greatly to her growth experience in life. I'm excited to see how much of me is her, how much of her is me, how much of her is her dad or her grandfather or whoever, you know, like that's really, 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 really cool. And I'm also excited to see like, you know, a friend asked me the other day about like how I'm feeling about becoming a mother. And I'm not apprehensive about it at all. Something about it feels very, it just feels like who I've always been. It's just now is the time that I'm actually stepping into the role. I am excited to, when I'm with her, know that I'm enough for her. Like, know that like God blessed me with her and her with me for a reason, and like to find those little nuggets. Like I'm sure when you're with your children, you have moments when you're like, we were made for each other.
Listen, when they first came home, I was like, who, well, now
all
what?
3 times.
Me and my husband looked at each other. We were like, well, now what?
Yeah,
you got to keep that one. And I remember coming into the house, and I remember she was in her car seat.
Wait, which time? First time?
My first time.
Okay.
In her car seat, and I remember my husband sat her down, like on the carpet or whatever, the rug in her car seat, and we sat down on the couch and we just looked at her, and we were like, so we just got to keep her alive, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the main goal. And I remember feeling like, wow, that's like a heavy feeling. But at the same time, it's like what you said, this was me meeting her, but I already knew her. Like I already knew her. Like her and I, like this was, like you said, this was about to be our thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited for that. For you.
Yeah.
I truly am. I remember looking at my daughter the other day and thinking to myself, this is my first time being a parent. You know, I've never been a parent before, and this is your first time being a kid. You've never been a kid before, so we're figuring this out together, and we're growing through this together. But it's my first, just like it's your first.
That's a good reminder.
So give me grace, just like I give you grace as a child, you know? And I think having that knowledge, now I have like almost a preteen, like, you know what I mean? Like she's 12, so she is a preteen. So it's our relationship has shifted and changed, but that's a constant. So I love that you're coming in with that, because I think that's a great mindset to start your journey with. Yeah. What are the things that you're most afraid of? And maybe it's not afraid, maybe it's more apprehensive.
I think I actually think I'm gonna use the word curious. I'm curious.
I like that word.
To discover the ways that I change.
Yeah.
I think that change is inevitable.
Oh, yeah.
And it's approaching.
Oh, yeah.
And I also know from talking to my friends that are parents that it's instantaneous. There's a change that happens. That maybe there's other changes that happen down the line, but there's at least one change that is instantaneous. And so I'm really curious to see what that is, how it impacts my life, how it changes how I move through the world. But I'm also like, you know, there's pros and cons to it all, right? I think there's going to be some ways that are difficult and I'm going to have to kind of recalibrate. But I also know that babies bring blessings. So I'm really excited to see like the exciting and like transformative ways that I change that are just going to like lead to me leading my best life.
Oh, yeah. You know? I mean, listen, I think you're already leading a very blessed and beautiful life.
Yeah.
And I think this will just add, it's almost like, you know, when people say you win the lottery, it doesn't change who you are. It just almost exacerbates or like ignites who you are inside. This will be very similar. It doesn't change who you are at your core, but it will give you more of whatever that is. And for you, it's filled with love and beauty and all the things. So this will be a journey for you that you just...
And it's always just been Daryl and I. So I think it's going to be like
that's
cool to be like, there's somebody else up in here.
That's the fun part. And now I bring my oldest in. I'm like, Nima, you need to weigh in on this one because your daddy tripping. You know, that's when it gets like a little fun. Have you thought more about, and this is how we'll wrap this up because I know I've been talking to you for a long time and I could talk to you for like hours.
No, I love it.
Have you thought about your birth journey? Like how you want to labor and how you want to bring her into this world?
So on
top of that, as a woman of color, do you have any fears around everything that we hear with the Black maternal health rate and all these things? What are you doing to combat that as well?
So because I've had previous myomectomy, fibroid surgeries, I have to have a scheduled C-section.
Okay.
Because it's just safer if my body kind of goes into like spontaneous labor, my uterus is contracting, there's a potential that it could rupture. And that's not safe for me or the baby. So gratefully, I've had years to wrap my head around that. I mourned it at first. I really mourned. Like,
why so?
I think I just thought, you know, when you think of like an ideal, at the time, when I thought of an ideal birth experience, it was just, you know, waking up in the middle of the night and being like, oh my God, I think my water broke. What is that? Should we call the doctor? Let's just labor at home for a little bit. Like, that's just kind of how I saw it. It was the same with becoming pregnant. I was really attached to like, you know, like for the whole like 14 months we were trying to get pregnant, I would like wake up in the middle of the night and take a pregnancy test and like sneak off to another bathroom and be like, hopefully I can surprise Daryl in the morning. That wasn't how it worked out for me. And I had to like, that was another thing I had to like let go of, like it not being the way I saw it in my head, but it's still being just as beautiful.
But see, that's why I love you sharing your journey, because it is not storybook all the time for everybody. It is not this whole movie that we like, oh, we lay down and we make love and it's passionate and we wake up and we're like, oh my God, I'm pregnant.
Yes.
And then we go and, oh, was that my water? Oh no. And now we're having the baby. It's like, it's not that. And I love the fact that you are shedding light to women, you know, and especially Black women, but to all women, to be honest with you, that, hey, there are different ways that this can happen. There's different ways and beautiful ways that this can occur. And so I love that.
Yeah. And so I've had years to kind of wrap my mind around it. And now I'm like, oh, this is cool. I'm going to be totally fine. So with that, then I was like, so how do I want my C-section to be? If I know I have to have a C-section, then how do I want that to go?
Right.
And so for me, like, you know, I want to make sure that, like, you know, my husband can be in the room and we can have our music playing. He's going to make a playlist for us.
Nice.
And, you know, I've already talked to my doctor, my birth team, about like being able to do skin to skin after, just making sure that I can still prioritize she and I, even in a operating room.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah.
You know, I've even talked like about like, you know, I know you guys have to have light, but can we not have the lights be like super stark? Is there a way to?
I love that idea.
Yeah. My hospital doesn't actually, there are some hospitals that will allow you to have a clear drape. My hospital doesn't do clear drapes, but they are going to be very mindful of the way I'm positioned on the table so I can see as much as I want.
Awesome.
So these are all like TikTok.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know all these things were options. TikTok told me these things were options. They're called gentle C-sections.
I love this.
Where you can kind of like create the mood that you want. And I really just want to empower women. Like this is your birth experience. You get to have requests.
That's right.
And ideals for yourself. And you have to be okay if you have to pivot. You know what I mean?
That's right.
But it's okay. This is your time. And
to have someone in the room advocating for you, whether that's a husband,
so that's
partner,
the thing. I have a doula as well.
That's right.
So yeah, so that's kind of like, that's my plan.
I love
my
this.
plan is to have a gentle, vibey C-section. I'm gonna be cute. I'm gonna have my I call them my, you already knew it, my birthing braids, I call them.
Ashley gonna have some of these in.
Just wait. I can't wait to get have my birthing braids in. I'm gonna be, you know, as cute as I can be, know, going into scheduled C-section.
Why is that with Black women? Black women were always like, girl, what you gonna do with your hair?
Listen,
what you gonna do with your hair before you?
Oh my gosh.
You know, but for me, I don't think when I was having kids, I don't even think I
knew
you
that
braids? No.
Oh no, ain't no way.
I was all over the place. I was like, oh my God. I look back at pictures. I'm like, what did you? Who didn't? You know what I had? I had the two braids.
Oh,
that's what I had.
Okay, so
I had the two braids.
It wasn't just like free and willy nilly. You still had them.
I think I did do that, but I think I might have done that on like pregnancy number like 3.
Oh,
yeah, I tapped in
so it took you a couple to figure out.
I didn't go to HBCU. See what I'm saying? I have my community around me. Just be like, Lizzie, this is what you need to do. I could talk to you for another hour.
I know.
Easy. I really
have to come back.
You have to come back. But I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
I am so excited for this next journey for you.
I know.
We have a little like Cool Mom Code gift bag for you. So we want you to enjoy.
Thank you, Nora.
And it's all of some of our favorite things. So
oh my gosh, I'm upset. This is the nicest thing.
Hey, you know what? Promise me you'll come back. Wait a minute. Do we have a scoop on the name? Or
we haven't said the name yet. But our first shower is at the end of this month. So I think the name might come out soon. Yeah. But yeah.
Do you want to say it
You'll
and then I'll cut it out?
Well, I'll just like tell you. I'll tell you, but yeah.
Okay.
When is this going to air?
It'll probably air in like 4 weeks.
Oh, okay.
But no,
I'll tell you. I'll tell you
later. Don't do it because you know what?
Thank you for this
just
bag.
in case I gotta push it earlier.
This is gonna come with me to the hospital.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. Yes. I'm gonna need this.
Oh, we got.
Yeah.
I'm so happy about this.
Yes. Thank you.
A ton of stuff inside.
I can't wait to go through
of goodies.
it.
I can't wait either.
This is so generous. Thank you,
Ashley,
sis.
Thank you. Lots of love. Lots
Ditto.
of love.
And thank you for inspiring me. I'm so inspired by you.
Look, same.
Thanks.
Look at that.
I'm gonna be calling you all the time. Like, Lizzie, what do I do with this baby?
That's all you gotta do. Dial me up. I'll be there.
Oh my gosh. Side note, have you seen that like with different generations, like there's like this thing where they'll be like, how do you mime a phone? We just went like this.
Yes.
They go like this. So it just made me think this has nothing to do with the podcast.
This is a coffee cup.
I know, but they'll go like this. We just went like this. Like I was like, I'll call you up. They would never do this because they never used a phone.
Girl, I'm not doing this with you. I'm not. You're not about to sit here just because you're a TikToker now, okay? You're not about to sit here and make me feel like I'm old.
Thing.
You better stop.
It's so crazy.
Look,
they ask like a lot of different things, but that's just that's like one example.
I can't. Look, if you've learned anything
ask
on
your
this
kids
podcast
when
today,
you get home. Ask your kids.
I will.
Do it with them.
I will, and I'm gonna videotape it up and send it to you.
Send it to me.
If you've learned anything today, go to TikTok to learn everything you want to know.
Before it's gone. Are they trying to like ban TikTok?
I know.
So do it now.
Look, if you want to get pregnant, you better go to TikTok now before it's over.
Exactly.
Ashley, thank you for coming on.
I appreciate you.